Okay.
All right. Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang.
What did he? What did he get?
What it in, man? Oh, what's up? Okay. All right. Now we're gonna get serious.
Yeah.
Welcome to F1 or F Off, your audio pit stop for F1 news and race reviews. I'm your host, Iddris.
And I'm Gabe.
How you guys doing today?
How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing who's listening?
Yes.
We'll give you a second. You just tell us. Fascinating.
Wow. That's enthralling.
Sarah, really? Oh, man. That's crazy. No, Brenda, you need to dump him.
Oh, absolutely.
Just saying. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
Good catch up.
That was very Dora the Explorer of our.
There's somebody out there that's got those names, I think, that will appreciate the fact that we're talking directly to them.
Yeah.
Well, Iddris, how are you? What's been going on?
I'm doing well, man.
Week been?
My week has been great. We are recording this episode a few days after Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
Or I guess Saint Valentine's Day, I guess, isn't the name after the saint, something like that. But yeah, a day of romance and love. No, it was good. It was cool. My family and I had a good time. My wife and I, we had some nice dinner and got some flowers and stuff. And yeah, it was cool. We had a really fun week, and just got back from visiting family out of town and sitting here with my buddy talking Formula One, drinking some coffee. So I mean, it can't be better than this.
Yeah. No, I had a fun Valentine's Day. I went to a place in Portland called the Ravens Manor. And it's sort of like a spooky bar. And they had a special thing going on. You paid like a ticket to get in, because they were normally closed. Mm-hmm. And the way it was advertised, it's like, oh, there's going to be aerialist performers and like fire dancers and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. And we show up and like, there was just a dude that had a python walking around, and people were taking pictures with the python. And then like we did like a cleansing ritual, which I'm not really, I participated just in the spirit of it, but I'm not
sure.
I was just like, all right, I'll fixate on my anxiety and see, whatever. But
yeah,
I couldn't help but feel that I guess some people take, value in this, but like for me, I just felt like I don't know, it was fun spending time with my date while we were there. That was enjoyable, and it was a cool spot, but it just like, I don't know. I think the ticket price was not really kind of worth what it was, but any Valentine's time spent with somebody that like you like or you care about is important. And, I would like to hope that anybody on Valentine's Day, I would say going forward, if you didn't do it this year, if you're single on Valentine's Day, take yourself out on a date, take a bath, go to a spa, read a book in a park, just treat yourself right.
Yeah.
That's Gabe's advice for the week. So
thank you for subscribing to Gabe Facts.
Gabe's self-care and self-love seminar.
Did you also like imbibe in some pink Himalayan salt? I feel like that kind of goes along with the Ravens Manor. Honestly though, that place sounds really cool, and it sounds like it's straight out of like a Sabrina the Teenage Witch comic.
It kind of is. I mean, it's very spoopy. It's very spoopy in there, which is cool.
Not spooky, spoopy.
No, spoopy. Which is the thing. I don't like to be scared. I like to be spooked. I like to like be surrounded by. It's like if you're gonna have a bat, make it a cute bat.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a ghost, make it like a silly ghost. It's like, ooh, don't tell me stories about like horrible tragedies being done to people and like ghoulish. I'm not a scary Halloween. I'm a spoopy Halloween kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm a Scooby-Doo kind of spooky.
Yeah. I like to know that it's not actually a monster. It's just some capitalist pig trying to like get a one over on some kids. You know what I'm saying?
You damn commie kids.
I would have gotten away with my scheme too if it wasn't for you kids and your crypto. Well, speaking of crypto,
bro, yes,
we're here to talk about liveries,
some hot diggity dog liveries,
and some sponsorships that may or may not involve crypto. So
yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, I mean, we're gonna look at the liveries today. I mean, we've been watching them. Gabe and I, we have been on it. We have been there for all the car releases.
We do this every year.
Yeah, we do this every year. We're just like, bro, did you see it? And we're just like, bro, texting each other back, like all caps,
Yeah. If
that's
it's
how
really
you know
good,
if
it's
one
just
of us,
bro.
Yeah. If we really like it,
6 O's.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it's like meh, it's just bro.
It's just like really.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah. Well, here's an interesting thing. Livery it's a weird term. And it's applied to race cars, and if you don't really know like a livery, it's basically like the decorations on the car. Like it's essentially like the car's dressing, like it's sort of meant to distinguish your vehicle instead of just your number, your helmet. Like there's, value in sort of having your cars be distinguished on the track. It's also a term that was used to describe people who are in service in like old England times, like think Downton Abbey. They refer to the footmen wearing their liveries as like a thing. It's what it means is like a specific outfit that they would wear when they were like serving tables. It's like the footmen in their liveries, but it's sort of translated into motorsport in a sense of like it's like the car's uniform. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like
I like that.
Just to give like a quick little history lesson on liveries for race cars. I mean, this is, I would say, mostly universal across every motorsport. I think they kind of emerged organically, but like to stick with specifically Formula One.
Yeah.
We mentioned this, I think, when we talked about our GOATs episode, maybe a little bit, where historically back in pre-war times and even post-war times in the 50s, most race teams or people who were racing, they would race in their country's colors is what they originally would do. So Ferrari and the Italian cars would race in like a red. French had this really nice blue color. It was like this flat blue. If you think like Bugattis, like the blue you see in a Bugattis is like a French blue.
So beautiful.
England had British Racing Green, which was not the same green across different cars. That's why like the Aston Martins typically have more of like almost like a
forest green, I'd say.
Oh,
right?
It's more like a frosty sort of green. And then you have like Jaguar, which theirs is a lot deeper and a lot more like kind of yellowy, sort of like richer.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's all still technically considered British Racing Green. And then you had like Germany would race in like silver. And I think the Japanese race in white. I think they originally like the old Hondas were like white.
And I think that one in particular just harkens to like the flag colors, right? Just the rising sun flag. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think like, the flag with the red dot. I mean, that's a very, what country that is right out the gate. And then what happened was most of the race teams, when it comes to their sponsorship, as that started to happen, most of the sponsorship that they would put on the car would only be like, what their tire supplier was, what the oil supplier was, whatever that. And then in the 60s, like late 60s, Lotus came out with this new decoration on their cars. They used to just race in green and yellow, British Racing Green with yellow for Lotus. And then they came out with these gold leaf special cars. They were white and red with like gold, and it was a tobacco company, and the tobacco company paid them to like dress up their car for their thing because like commercialization, the popularity of the sport was getting bigger, so they saw that opportunity to do that. And at first I think everybody was really kind of shocked, like it felt really tacky because it was like a lot of gatekeeping, like this is a fancy sport for fancy lads, and in hindsight, tobacco sponsorships are not, I think visually they're incredible, but I think just as a sponsor for as a product, it's like no. And what's interesting is that as the team started to follow suit, everybody hopped on the cigarette train. And some of the best liveries, like stuff you wouldn't even realize were tobacco, were big sponsors. So like the Marlboro is obviously classic and iconic. The like Lotus John Player Special, the Rothmans, Camel, like these are all cigarette brands, and they just happen to look so good.
And just to add in here too, I think one of the more recent ones that comes to mind is Mission Win Now or Mission Winnow. I'm not sure how to pronounce it because it could be Win Now or Winnow, and it's funny that it's on the Ferrari and it says Mission Win Now.
Well, it's a Ferrari, so it's not Win Now. It's Win Maybe Later.
Ferrari, the team that just keeps on giving. Maybe that's what makes them worth their the memes they provide. I think that might be why we accept them receiving their legacy status, right?
Yeah. It's like they bring entertainment. They don't just bring prestige. They bring the laughs at their expense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Iddris, one thing that me and you did, kind of prepping for this discussion, but also just something I think I don't even know if we've had a discussion about this. I think we kind of poke at it, but we came up with a list of our favorite liveries throughout the 90s.
Yes. Well, not just the 90s.
Well, not just the 90s, but
yeah.
Mostly the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, at least in my case.
Yeah.
So, Iddris, how about you give me the rundown of like which your favorite liveries throughout history and kind of like why, like sort of what it makes you think of.
Sure. All right. So yeah, I think we each picked 6, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully I didn't overdo it. Yeah. I
know
we did 6. Sometimes I get overzealous with this kind of thing. So there were 6 liveries that to me just popped out as being super awesome. And I think when we get to the end of this episode too, as we're talking about the liveries from this year, it'll be cool to kind of compare and contrast and see if there's something that really pops out. Because honestly, as I'm looking through my list, I definitely have a style.
You do
that I like, and it's the same on yours too. I think yours might be more like era specific, but yeah, I'll just run them off name wise. I'm just a McLaren stan, I guess, apparently, because 3 out of the 6 choices that I've made are McLaren. So the McLarens I have on this list include the McLaren MP4. That is from the 1988 season, driven by 2 goats of the sport, Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna.
Right.
We have the McLaren MP4 22. That's from 2007 season, driven by another 2 goats of the sport, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. That's that really nice chrome covered car with the Vodafone logo. Oh man, it's so iconic. And then the last McLaren I have on here is the McLaren MCL 34. That car ran in the 2019 season, and I just love that sweet baby papaya orange.
Yeah, you know, that was the surprise.
Blue. Yeah, I just something. So actually, I had the 2018 MCL 33 up there, but it was just a little too much with the orange. Like there was nothing breaking it up, right? And I also think that was a season that McLaren was just not doing hot, right? So they didn't have many sponsors, and so actually they had a lot of sponsors, but like the way the sponsorship logos were placed in the car, just it wasn't really working. Whereas I think with the MCL 34, the way it was split up between the blue and the orange on the car, just lovely. The other 3 picks that I have here include the Mercedes W12. That's the 2021 Mercedes car. That was the car that Lewis Hamilton drove in his tight battle of Titans between himself and Max Verstappen.
The beast of a car, though.
Yeah, just so nasty looking, like in a good way, Then we got the Renault R26 from the 2006 season, driven by your boy, Fernando Alonso. All the time you got to leave with the space. And then we have the Lotus car. So I couldn't pick which one in particular I loved, but I know like as far as like the number designators go, we're talking the 72 through the 98T.
Right.
And any of those cars that have the John Player special livery, just something about that black and gold is really, really clean.
Yeah.
What do you think? So out of the list that I showed you, or out of the list that I have here, what did you think of that?
Well, I'm going to skip on the MP4 right now because I have a similar one. I mean, the Marlboro McLaren livery, I want to talk about that because I'm going to bring it up again in my list. So we can talk about that in a sec. I do want to say that the McLaren MP4 22 from 2007, those chromed out McLarens are just so
stunning,
good. I mean, it just like one of the coolest colors, one of the coolest paint jobs you could possibly have on an F1 car is chrome. Even if it's just a little bit like of an accent, it's just so good. They were just of a time. It literally looks like a spaceship.
Yeah.
Like it, and then just the bright Vodafone like fluorescent red, and then it's perfectly like in this photo you have Hamilton's yellow helmet. So easy to pick him out in a crowd with that.
Absolutely.
As a livery, I think that is a very specific thing. Like when you just have 2 specific elements of color, you have the chrome and you have the fluorescent
your accent
red
color. Yeah.
And so like any other color that comes out of that's a smaller percentage sticks out. There's like a whole theory with, I think, like graphic design where it's like you split up your colors. Like you do like half of it is your main color, and then half of that is your secondary color, and then like you just have a little sliver of an accent color to kind of make things pop, and that's like just this good ratio. The McLaren from 2019 you chose a surprise, I will say.
Why is that?
Well, because I guess I just wasn't really expecting that. I didn't really even think about it. But I mean, looking at it, one thing I will agree with, I think I like about this is it's very simple, but also that papaya orange is like the right papaya orange.
Yes, too. Exactly. Because I think there have been other times where they use papaya orange and it was just like, nah, that's not good. And honestly, we'll get to it when we talk about the McLaren's livery for this year. It's not busy, right? It's very simple. It's very clean. That's a Kingdom Hearts reference. If you know, you know. But
Right.
yeah, there's like way too much going on with the livery for this year, unfortunately. And I think that it will not be cracking my top 6 list anytime soon. I think, which is like, and also what I love about the MCL 34, like the split between the orange and the blue, like you have it bleeding into each other with like the triangle shapes on both sides,
Yeah.
right? Like that really helps to kind of, it pulls you in. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. One thing I will say though, as a detriment, and I this applies to a lot of cars in the grid, especially now because like the tires have those color sort of designations. I think it's fun when the colors already involve those certain elements. So like the Ferraris look good if they have the white branded tires, the yellow or the red, because it's just the red works well with all of those colors. But like the red soft tires with the papaya orange and the blue, like it contrasts in this way in this photograph that I'm not like super into. If it was white, it would be like perfect.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's just like a fun thing that like I notice sometimes. I'm like, well, that doesn't really look good with those colors, but it's fine. I think honestly the Mercedes W12 from 2021 speaks for itself. I just no notes, it's flawless. Like it just colors are proportioned perfectly.
Yes.
That little speckle of red on the places on the top and on the little inlets of the wings.
Yeah.
I do want to say the John Player Special livery. I'm glad you chose it because I feel like one of us had to.
Yeah, guys, just so you know, we're also sponsored by F1 overlords, the FIA, and if we do not reference a John Player Special,
if we don't reference the classics, we'll get canceled by the FIA.
Yeah.
So I would say the Lotus 72 is probably the best. Well, the one and this one that you showed through this Senna era.
Yeah.
I think we're the best. I mean, that livery basically was on so many just incredible F1 machines. I mean, the Lotus 72 was just bonkers looking machine, and just the sinister sort of black, and like it's just iconic looking. The only thing that really bums me out when I see this though is I just think about how much Rich Energy ruined it.
Yeah, that black oh dude, you know what, part of me wanted to put down the Rich Energy Haas. I think it was a 2018 car, or was it 2019? Just because it looked cool, but just knowing what they did, you know, just
well there's that, but also like Renault already tried to revive the black and gold when they had Kimi on the team. Remember that? Remember the Lotus Renaults in like 2012, like 2013? Yeah. They sort of did the same kind of thing. But honestly, like I feel like there are some teams that try and bring back these old colors as like, well, guarantee our cars are going to win then if they look this good. It's like a superstitious thing, like a guy who has to chug 5. Yeah, it's like a guy who has to chug 5 beers before an Ingalls game to make sure that they win. You know, they had their rituals.
Yeah.
This is Formula One's equivalent of like shotgunning 5 beers before they end the Super Bowl. Like, you know, making your cars look like a classic livery from the past, you know.
That, sir, is alcohol poisoning.
Right. But yeah, John Player Special Lotus, incredibly sinister, classy looking. It's a sharp looking thing. And I think that style of livery just needs to be retired for good. I think just let it live in the history books, and just, you know, let's work on getting some new stuff out there that's going to be iconic in the future.
Yeah. I appreciate the vote of confidence on some of those picks here. I know the McLaren is not as spicy, you know, with the soft tires. I think that was when we were just using red, yellow, and white. There was a period of time, folks, where in F1 there were like 7 different choices of tires, right?
Yeah, they tried that.
And they call it the rainbow of Pirelli tires, right? I think it was like hyper soft, no, ultra soft, hyper soft, super soft,
medium, hard.
And I think, was there like a super hard at a certain?
I don't think there was a super hard
or medium.
You know what was weird about that though is that they were modular, because the at one race the super soft tire might be the hyper soft. You know what I mean? Like the compounds changed, the name designation changed for the tires depending on the track. And I think what happened, they only lasted like a season, like maybe 2 seasons, because I think they realized that that's really complicated. It didn't make any sense. So basically what they did is, instead of having all of those designations, because I don't even think people were using the hypersoft. So that's part of the reason why they never did it, because it's just kind of wasteful. So they just ended up sticking to, okay, you got super soft, medium, and hard. And like, that's all you need. Like just Gran Turismo rules. Okay. Like basic racing game rules, just stick to that. Simpler the better. If you don't mind, I would like to talk about my list, particularly because 2 of the cars that you chose are very similar. Well, one of them is the same car. The other one is basically the same car. So just to quickly go through my list. My first one is the 1990 Ferrari F190. That I think is the only F1 car that was displayed in an art museum at one time.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think that was it. It is a sight to behold. I mean, what it looks like, and not even just the livery. I think the livery is part of what sets it off because it's just so pure. It's just red with black wings and black wheels. And like something about that. It's like Ferrari at that period of time, even though that car was like, it was sort of competitive, but it wasn't like dominant.
Yeah.
When Ferrari just does that with their cars, to me, that's just a statement. It's just like, hey, we're Ferrari. We don't care. Like this is us. Like it's just so pure in that way.
Yeah.
And the design is so fluid and just so simple. The lines are just so perfectly drawn. It looks like a person artistically rendering just a generic race car in a way that's like they're not overly going out. There's not like got weird wings and fins and intakes and stuff. It's just this pure shape. And from every profile, like from above, from behind, from to the side, it is just a sight to behold. I think it is one of the most beautiful machines ever made. It just looks so good. Driven by Alan Prost, and I think at that time it was Nigel Mansell. I think it was Mansell, and it may have been Gerhard Berger. Trying to remember 1990. Anyway, next car.
So long ago.
Yes, so long ago. I mean, I wasn't even born. The next one is actually also from 1990, and it's just like the MP4. This is the MP4-5. The reason why I chose the 5 is not necessarily the livery as much as it is the engine.
Okay.
I just when I go back and rewatch the old races, when you go from 1989 to 1990, they dropped the turbos and went to like the V10 like naturally aspirated engines, and so they're just that much more exciting to see and behold. And I think that's just killer. And also, honestly, the Marlboro livery is so iconic. Bright red, white, just simple lines, easily distinguished on the car. And it does that same thing here. And Senna has that yellow helmet, which is the reason. Yep. It's also the reason why Lewis raced in yellow to begin, because Senna was his hero. So those two, pretty self-explanatory. Yeah.
Real quick, I was going to say about the MP4-5 picked here. What's so cool is that it is so iconic. I think you could just put it down. Like if you had a little miniature, put it down on a table in front of someone and ask them, oh, what is this? And they'll say, oh, it's one of those fancy race cars, right? Like, it transcends, I think it transcends just knowledge areas, right? And areas of interest. People would just know that. Its
iconic status, I think, is what really makes that library stick out. Now, the next one was also on your list, and it's on my list, and that is the Renault from 2006, the R26, Fernando Alonso's like championship winning car.
Beautiful car.
It is really beautiful. The blue and yellow are such a good combination together. Especially the one thing I do like too is they break it up on the bottom portion. There's this really nice dark navy blue that they sort of accent it with. It separates the light blue with the yellow. That really sets it off.
Yeah.
And also like the nose had such a crazy sort of like a mouth design on it. And it just, it was just such a beautiful looking thing. It's just really well proportioned, accenting the nose with the yellow and then the side pods with the blue really helps define the shape of the car as it drives along. Absolutely stunning machine.
Absolutely.
I love it. I also love that. I think maybe there was a race. Maybe it was like Abu Dhabi. I think they had Alonso drive that car around the track and Lewis Hamilton was giving an interview. Did you see that?
No.
And he stops the interview when Alonso drives past and he like looks over and he's just like, oh man, just that just sounds so amazing. Like he says that mid question in the interview.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Now the next three are all from the early 90s, and they have an element to them that I sort of learned about myself when I was choosing these. The first one is the Jordan 919 from 91. It was Michael Schumacher's debut like car he drove in. It's been considered probably one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful F1 cars. And not just because of the livery. I mean, just this has this incredibly gorgeous front wing.
It's got some nice lines to it.
I especially love that the rear has the 3 slot wing. Like it's got the 3 wings on the rear wing, which I think just looks awesome.
Yeah.
And then the Tic Tac 7-Up logo, like there's the dark foresty green with the dark blue, but the yellow rim accents, I think just icing on that cake. Just perfect.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
We just did that at the same time. I love it. um, Beautiful car. My next pick is the Williams FW15C from 93. Not only is it incredibly iconic, well-proportioned livery with like the Sega logo on it and Canon, which is super 90s. But it still remains the most technologically advanced F1 car ever made, specifically because it had traction control, ABS, active suspension. So it had all of these things that subsequently got banned, which we will talk about in a future episode when we talk about banned technologies.
That's going to be a fun one.
But it basically was a car that almost could drive itself. And the interesting thing is, so it's got this beautiful blue, dark blue accent with the white from the Canon, which is just, sticks out with red, perfect balance there. And then these nice little camel logo yellows. So it's just this yellow, blue, white, sort of well balanced. And it also has yellow rim accents, which just still, once again, it's just perfect.
Something's really nice about yellow in motion. And I'm seeing that throughout the images here. Like when you just see yellow moving, it grabs your eye, right? It's kind of similar to red, Yeah. I think there are definitely colors that work really well in these liveries. I keep going back and forth between liveries and liveries. It's liveries. The pronunciation is liveries. I checked it earlier on Google. Livery.
Right.
So yellow in motion just looks really sleek, and it looks like honestly you have 4, 5. I mean 6 if you're including
pretty much all of them.
Ayrton's helmet.
They have like a little yellow.
Little yellow. Yeah. See, Gabe's got a thing. Gabe has a theme for sure.
It's surprising because the last one is a Benneton, the B193 from 93. That is mostly yellow. And it has this really nice screen kind of going across, coming over the nose. And then there's a little Ford logo with like a strip of blue. And this one is also a really unique car because the rear wing and the front wing are I think they called this the platypus nose. The nose doesn't dip down, it sticks up, and the wings kind of underneath it. And so the airflow kind of went underneath the car to kind of encourage it to kind of go through and back. And then the rear wing has an extra wing protruding out from the front of it. Really unique design for that car. And then, as you would expect, once again, yellow rim accents.
Yeah. So here's a question about this, because as I'm looking at this is a really sick looking design. Was this during the ground effect era or no? This is
I don't think not specifically. They were still 93 and 94. There were a lot of teams that were trying to get away with like traction control and a lot of the electronic aids. So a lot of the grip, I think, was coming more sort of mechanically driven with like a computerization rather than like aerodynamically. But I also think that's probably, I think, part of why they did the double wing on the back and why they were, I think the airflow, it's not that it's necessarily also directing, because you can see where it has that little like red logo sponsorship underneath the driver, you can see too, and that's because there's like a little barge board that kind of sticks out of the side that's used to direct airflow around and into the airbox on the side of it. So I think that was basically all of that idea, was like airflow underneath and through, like past the wheels. Basically really beautiful car design. Once again, camel showing up for the yellow yellow sponsorship in there. Just as an overall thing about this list, part of the reason why pretty much every car I have from the 90s is there is because it was that era of just really nice flat colors that were just very vivid, very bright. Nobody was doing matte. Nobody was doing anything metallic, really. That 90s sensibility of just like everything is just those bright, vivid, flat colors. And please bring back the yellow rim like accents. They could do that on those. Like Red Bull has the red, just make it yellow. It would just be, these things will look so freaking, they just look so good. I love it. I absolutely love it. I wish I had a model of each of these cars like on my shelf. Like they would be amazing.
I think the only thing that's missing from our list is a car that, and I know this car didn't actually run in the 90s, a car that had a jazz livery. You know what I mean? Back in the 90s, there used to be the jazz art design on everything. I'm talking swishy pants. I'm talking like those disposable cups that were everywhere. The turquoise crayon, and then like a quick like purple squiggle through all that. That would be a great looking livery.
Dixie cup pattern.
It's the Dixie cup pattern. Yeah, it was some artist.
Beloved Jazz.
I think she was in college.
Design.
and designed it and then sold it to the company, and it's like extremely popular, right? Like to the point that I would say it's iconic.
Once again, it uses that principle I was telling you about when it comes to color choices, where like 50% is white, and then like half of that is this really nice turquoise blue, and then a sliver of that is the purple.
Yeah.
And just so the proportions of it are so well put together, it looks good. It would look good on everything. Like, bro, I'm just seeing now people have it designed on like their cars and stuff like that. I even see a guitar that has that. That's a brilliant. Like, I would totally have a guitar that's got that jazz solo cup design on it. Yeah.
Real quick, Gabe, I think you would really appreciate this. Do the folks know where you live? Like, have you talked about the city you're in?
Oh, on the pod here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, I said in Portland.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I live in Portland, Oregon.
The reason I'm bringing this up is I went to the Wikipedia page for the jazz design, and one of the linked articles is Portland International Airport carpet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a thing. If you haven't done that, yeah, just put PDX carpet.
Oh, that's beautiful. It looks really nice.
They sell, you can buy chocolate that has a packaging that has that specific carpet pattern on it. There's some place in the airport that still has that carpet because they've changed it since. And so you can take a picture of your feet standing on that carpet when you're in PDX. PDX airport is one of the better airports in the country, I would say. PDX always feels very comfortable. It feels really laid back. It's not always super hyper busy. There's just a tremendous amount of good shops and stuff to be at. I that carpet design is pretty iconic, and it's like on so many things. So
that might make a good livery too. Who knows?
Oh God, it would. Oh, especially if it was just an accent, like if it was just like sort of a little slight kind of portion in there.
You mentioned something that I actually wanted to go back to real quick. You were talking about miniature cars. This reminded me of the experience we had when we went to Austin last year for the US Grand Prix. So we were talking about the MP4, MP5. They had those miniatures. I think it was like probably like a 1/32 scale or something like that. And for the MP4, and I think it was going for like $300.
Yeah,
like it is. People love this car. Like I would love to get my hands on one. I mean, I might have to save up a little bit of money. You know what I mean? And, but it would be so worth it.
It would be. I mean, if I could hunt down a model of each of these, like especially that 7-Up car. Oh my gosh, that Jordan. Hell yeah.
So all this talk about liveries has got me thinking, Gabe. What makes a livery iconic or good? Okay. So this is something I think about a lot, right? I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Ohio changes their license plate template every freaking year. Like it's like every 3 or 4 years. And it's just if you would just actually stick with one and like let it kind of like build up, it would eventually become iconic, right? I think, in my opinion, something being iconic and classic, there's an element of time there, right? I look at like the California license plate, and that is just chef's kiss. That is iconic. It's simple. It's clean. I know what it represents. I have a certain vibe from it, right?
Oregon's is really good too.
Yes, Oregon's is iconic. New Mexico's is iconic. There are a lot of states that have really nice ones. Like Texas is kind of just bland, but it is classic though, right? I mean, you look at it, you're like, oh, cool. I know what I'm getting. So apply that same logic to liveries. What you got?
Well, so to be fair, do you remember what the Ohio license plate was when we were kids?
Dude, it was like that. Like
it was just like
brown.
Yeah, it was like somebody stuck the license plate on the bottom with P for a while, like, and then just post. It was so bad.
It was awful.
So funny thing is, I have 3 different Ohio license plates in my room, like kind of hung together. But I have the red, white, and blue stripe one.
Yeah.
I have the one that's like it's like the Ohio Fields thing.
Oh, the one that just doesn't make sense for Ohio.
Yeah.
It's too much color.
Yeah. And then I had the other one that had like the Ohio that was like the red sort of like logo in the top, and then it had like the gray sort of little graphics.
I love
like
that
staples.
One. Yeah. I felt like that could have been iconic, but they just pivoted from it. And,
they changed them too much. Oregon's is really nice because you have the mountain range and the tree in the center, like the evergreen one. So
you know what it is.
So honestly, that right there is part of, I think, what makes a really iconic livery: repetition and consistency. I think that if you go through a change and you're trying to revamp or adjust, part of what makes it successful going forward or continuing is that you retain a certain amount of design elements in it. That could be anything from color, signature logo. So that's why like Ferrari sticking with red the entire time. Yeah, it's Ferrari. They race in red. They always have, except for I think John Surtees raced a Ferrari that was they had like a white and blue car at one point for like one-off race, and then they had one in the 60s where it was red, but then it had like a baby blue wheel accents and like nose accents.
Okay.
So there are certain elements that they've tried before that they could do differently. They also did, I think, was it 20 like 18 or 2019? Remember they did like that really dark red that was sort of like their original red that they did in like the early Grand Prix cars. Like that looked pretty slick. Although it reminded me more Alfa Romeo than it did Ferrari, which Alfa used those darker colors historically. Honestly, I think there's a few elements. One of them feels kind of like a little unfair, and that is I think that a iconic livery is more easily comes out of a car that's successful. Because I think if you win with it, then people are going to remember that. I can't really think of a car that was hugely successful that people don't necessarily remember what it looks like. Or couldn't easily recognize it if you're a fan of the sport. Like I think case in point, the Marlboro McLarens. I mean,
absolutely.
It's iconic for a reason, not only because they were successful and dominant, but they also were steeped in controversy several times. I think that what really differentiates a iconic livery from like just something that sort of, comes and goes from a design standpoint, I think part of what makes it is the consistency. So how long it's around that people kind of retain a memory of it. I also think there's a balance between having a good proportions, but also taking a risk. And so like McLaren using chrome, that's a risk.
Yeah.
But it was one they stuck with and it paid off in this way to where it's like those cars are memorable.
Yep.
I think using bright blues and bright yellows, like definitely like that's a big thing that sticks out. When AlphaTauri went with the white rims for like the 2019 season or the 2020 season, that was like a thing. They get dirty over the course of the race because of the brake dust, but I think the fact that they stuck with it, I was just like, yes, white rims, that's a choice.
Yeah.
And I like it. So I think that there's a certain amount of risk and certain amount of sort of an attempt at something interesting that I think contributes. One thing I would like to say, and because it's something that everybody talks to, and it's kind of sort of related to this year, is everybody talks about the Red Bull cars looking the same. Now, I'm going to have some comments on this. Okay, so I'm going to make this statement first of all, and I want to get your opinion on this too.
Okay, all right.
So the first statement I'm going to make is I don't like the Red Bull livery. And the reason why I don't like it, it's not the fact that it has the logo and not the fact that the logos are positioned where they are. I think that the blue that they use is too dark and gross looking. And the fact that it's a matte finish car, I think it just does not look good to me. It doesn't look slick. It looks like, it reminds me of like,
does it look slow with the matte?
It just, there's something, I don't know why, but there's something about it that it feels pretentious in like a sportswear way. You know what I mean? It's like, imagine a sportswear, like a sports shoe company that's like, ours is a matte finish and we use this dark royal blue. And it's like, you want to know what a good Red Bull looks like? Look at the RB9, the Sebastian Vettel Red Bull that had this like beautiful pearlescent purple blue metallic finish. I did not appreciate it at the time, but oh man, that looks good. It's
very striking. I would imagine seeing this car like driving down, because I didn't watch this season of F1, so I'm seeing this car and I'm just imagining it driving through the streets of Singapore at night with the lights on it. Yeah, that would be real nice.
100%. It was incredible. I don't fault Red Bull for sticking to a similar design. The Marlboro McLarens, for 2 decades, hold my beer. Like, it's true. Like, that Marlboro McLaren design did not change for 2 decades. They were using that with like the James Hunt era in the early 70s. So I think that Red Bull sticking to a similar design, nothing wrong with that, because you want consistency. I just think that they could make the Red Bull car have those elements, but just look better.
Yeah.
Just use better paints.
Okay. I mean,
I don't know. What do you think?
It's certainly a Red Bull. You know,
yeah, right.
The worst part about what kills me is that they always have this really dope one-off livery during the season, right? Or like the preseason testing. I'm like, yo, this is the year. This is the year. And then
the art car,
and then they come back and they're just like, here is the RB insert number here, and its performance and specs are approximately 2.5% greater than last year. You know, it just looks so bland and boring, right? But you know, there is a certain element of, yo, we won, we don't have to change shit, right?
Right.
So,
sure.
You know, they can get away with that.
You know, but yeah.
Bro, let's just hop right into it, man. Let's just go straight for the jugular. Let's start off with Red Bull. All
right.
Let me just say real quick that every constructor last year after the season ended must have just went back to their rooms and just blasted Evanescence, and they're like, yo, I'm in my feelings right now.
They're emo mode. They're also playing Black Parade in the background.
This is like like the red jumpsuit apparatus like era.
Oh yeah, no,
F1.
They're back in black, and I'm here for it.
I'm
Serve
with you,
Queen.
Everyone got the agenda and was like, yo, we're going for, you know, Galactic Empire black this year. Cool.
Yes.
So let's start off with the Red Bull. Let's just go there, and then, you know, we have all the cars here, but yeah, Gabe,
it is Fashion Week here.
Yeah,
and the Formula One paddock, and so up next we've got the Red Bull. Right.
All right, so yeah, what do you? All right, so you start with your thoughts on the Red Bull. I'll give you my thoughts after.
Okay. Well, so here's the thing about the Red Bull design. I've said this before. I think the blue is too dark. That blue needs to be more gold. It needs to be more vibrant, or, you know, add some pearlescent element to it to kind of give it a more of a highlight. But that's not even just the problem. To me, it feels a little too basic. The Red Bull could be busier. Like, you have the Red Bull on the top of the airbox and you have it on the nose. The rest of it is just blue. And the thing is like, sure, simplicity can work. However, I think that in this context, this car needs imagine if there was a smattering of red underneath the Oracle logo.
Okay.
Just like a strip of red and yellow under the Oracle logo. Or maybe if let's say they continue the yellow from the nose across over the top next to where the driver is, and like trace it all the way back to the cannon exhaust towards the back of it. Like, there just needs to be some element of flow going across that midsection for me to make it more exciting. But I think instantly, just the simplest solution, I think, to improve this is just to make that blue more vivid. And this sort of makes it look, it's a little more semi-gloss. So maybe they're moving further away from the matte for this year. Maybe it's a little bit more semi-gloss, which is better. But honestly, that blue needs to be better. Or, you know what? Do something out of the box. Make that blue white. How good would that look? A white Red Bull with that? That would be awesome.
Okay, so it was Suzuka. Was it Suzuka?
They did something like that in a race, right? Yeah.
Their jumpsuits, at least like the racing suits, were white. They had like the Japanese like katakana down their sleeves and stuff, and it just looked sick. Like, that would be really cool to see, like Honda branded Red Bull for just one race. Just make it Suzuka, please.
Yeah,
please,
I mean, or do that thing, make it retro with like the chrome and blue sort of thing, like the cans are. Like, that would be cool as hell. Like, just do something else, like something interesting, but like you can keep the sort of Red Bull branding. But that's my thought. What do you think? What do you think would improve this?
So, honestly, it's like I said earlier, it's a Red Bull. It's cool. It's flat. It's, you know, it's coming in mid for me. And honestly, I don't really know how you improve the Red Bull outside of just like doing something drastic, like what you just said. Like, just go for like the Rising Sun version for Suzuka. That's all I have to say about Red Bull. Honestly, it is.
Just make that blue a different color.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Haas. It's right next to it. Haas came out swinging. They got a new sponsor. Hopefully, this is not tied to a company that actually. Hopefully, they're tied to a company that does make money. I think they do. MoneyGram is real.
Yes.
I've used their services before. I've never had Rich Energy before, so I can't imagine that.
Nobody.
This should be a much better experience. The Haas looks cool. The black is nice. That's all I have to say about it.
So I know the Palm Angels thing that's on the little underwing. That is apparently some high-end like fashion and items store or something that sells like overpriced shoes and socks. The thing I like about the Haas most this year, apart from honestly the black, is the little sort of circles things with the little like spike in the circles around the wheel covers. I think is a really nice accent.
Yeah.
The good balance of black to white to red across the whole board. It's not super busy. It's really simple. I mean, obviously, I would say probably because Haas doesn't have a whole lot of sponsorship. I think in this context, the simplicity is really good. I think it's really sharp. It's really quick looking. So I'm definitely in for their sinister approach here.
Okay.
And I think they did well with it.
Okay, so let's take a look at the Williams.
Yes,
the Williams,
please.
I was happy to see. It looks nice.
I do want to talk about this one, yes.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You go. What's your thoughts?
I mean, okay, so I'm a simple man, right? I see a livery I like, I say looks good. If I don't like it, I say meh, move on to the next thing. So the Williams one, it made me stop, maybe look at it, made me think a little bit about like, let's look at some of the lines and stuff. But the blue was really nice. I think they did a good job there picking like some blues with some gradients and throughout the actual like the way it's kind of just, I'm gonna use a word here, like swatched out on the car. I don't even know if that's a real word, but you know what I mean? It's just kind of like swooping.
It is now. It is swatched. Trademark, Iddris.
But yeah, no, it looks cool. I think the more interesting thing about a lot of these cars is more like the changes they've made to their aero packages. But we'll talk about that another time. But I think overall, good first attempt from Williams. Who knows? They might change up delivery or start peeling some paint back to get some weight savings. What do you think?
I like this. However, there's a couple of things I will say. I think the Duracell battery incorporation in the airbox is very clever. I like that.
I love that. I think that, it's cute.
I think that looks great.
Yeah.
I like this sort of swooping lines. I like that you have this dark blue and then it's sort of accented with this like very thin light blue stripes and then just a little peak of red underneath it.
Yeah.
That just has a very, once again, proportions, large color, smaller color, and then even smaller accent color used in like a smaller proportions. There's little kisses of red on like the wheel cover, on wing inlets. And so there's a good balance of that. Oh, I also really love those little arrows that are around the wheel covers. I think those are clever. I think it's going to look good at speed.
Yep.
The problem I have with this Williams car is the fact that they bathed the car in this other like lighter like cyan blue light that makes it hard to see what the car actually looks like.
Yep. So that's a good point. I think I've been struggling with a lot of the cars this year to see what they've done on the back end, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't tell if they're still sticking with the zero side pod from like a quick picture. Like I need to see the back. You know what I mean? So I'm waiting to see what things look like on preseason test day.
Yes. I mean, there's something about the blue. That was a bad choice for a color to be bathing the car in if you want people to really look what the color looks like. But yeah, I mean, I think that once it's in the cold light of day, I think it'll look a lot slicker than people might think. I just think that blue makes it kind of deceptive in a way.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the Alfa Romeo. All right.
Oh yes, let's do.
Yeah, dude. I saw this one. I was like, oh yes.
Yeah.
This is either the best looking car out of the bunch or number 2. Like it's mean looking. Like,
yeah, the thing.
This is real stance. This is real stance.
What's funny though? There's a comment I'm gonna make about this one that I also have a comment about the McLaren, but in a different way. The Alfa Romeo has a lot of sponsorship going on on this car. But yeah, the reason why I think this works is because all of the sponsorship is in white. So you have this beautiful red across the driver and on the back. And then the red is gloss contrasted with a semi-gloss sort of flatter black.
Yeah.
The red accents on the wheels is perfect separation. It breaks up that red and the black in a really nice way. Yeah. And there's just that little shamrock in the back that lets you know it's an Alfa Romeo. And like all of the white accents, like there's no like weird sponsorship that's sticking out in some other weird color. It's got 3 colors, or it's got 4 colors. It's red, black, white, and that little dash of green. Yeah, this thing looks badass. I hope it's as fast as it looks, because this thing looks it makes them look a little bit more like a badass in the bunch, and I am here for it. It is stunning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, some people were saying that they're going to get the Ferrari and the Alfa mixed up. You will not get the Ferrari and the Alfa mixed up.
You will not. No.
Always,
absolutely.
Always red. Like always, like fully red. Like with accent sometimes. Right. This is not. I mean, I can see how someone says, "Oh, but that's like the Ferrari red." No, it's not. It's
no.
It's a very different looking car.
It's a little darker, a little more metallic.
Yeah, honestly, this is I think this might be my favorite of the bunch. It's man, it is. I'm excited to see this one out on track. Yeah. And Alpha is a team. Honestly, people sleep on Alpha. Like they're always just doing better, like incrementally better, like year over year. And yeah.
Speaking of Ferrari, let's move on to Ferrari. Let's talk about them next. What do you think?
First off, I like the color. I think the color of red is beautiful.
They took a bold choice this year, and it was red. I couldn't believe my eyes.
I will say, I would love to see a yellow Ferrari. I know that sounds wild, but
it
like
could
the
work.
The jumpsuits that they had, the racing suits that they had last season for their, I forget what anniversary it was. That would have been beautiful. That color of yellow would have been beautiful in the car, and to see that in motion. Just a one-off. Anyways, the Ferrari in general, though, I think that this hue of red is really nice. I think the red that they had last year for the F175, because this is the SF23, right? So there's Scuderia Ferrari 23. Right. The F175 from last year, the red was, I think, it was almost like burgundy maroon.
It's a little darker, yeah.
Yeah, maybe closer to purplish. But this is nice. I think it's popping. It looks like a nice bright red apple. Yeah, I just want to like bite into it and see its performance. I'm excited. I think it looks really good. No real critiques there.
This reminds me of that Ferrari that I told you about in my classic liveries, where it looks a lot like it. It's just red body, black wings. The thing, honestly, though, that makes me that really gets my goat with this one is the Ferrari logo across the wing. That looks so good. My God. Like that to me is iconic. Like that, it's just the little cherry on top of that cupcake.
That's me the chef's kiss, y'all.
I think it's simple, it's slick, it works. Ferrari's well proportioned. You're not gonna misplace this car in a crowd.
Yep.
You're gonna know what it is. No notes. This is great. I'm into it.
Let's go to the McLaren. I don't like it. It's just, I think they've gone too much to the other. It's very much what you were saying about the Alpha on the flip side, right? They have a lot of sponsors here, but like the way it's clean, the way they've organized the sponsorship logos on the car with the color selection, it's well coupled together, right? I look at it on the McLaren and it's just like too much. It feels like, I love the Google Chrome wheel cover.
Clever.
But maybe that might be the issue that I'm having with it now that I'm looking at it a bit more, because the orange is nice, the blue is nice, but it just feels like, they're not picking between black text and white text. Like they have both, right? Maybe that's the issue. Maybe if they had stuck to just one color for the text and maybe gone with just one color for the wheel cover, maybe I'd feel a little better. But honestly, it just feels like too much for me right now.
Well, let me tell you what I think is wrong. There are two big things that I think are wrong here. One, I think it's too busy in a sense that the sponsorship logos are kind of all over the place.
Right.
There's like the DeWalt yellow is like, it's there.
It's so jarring.
It's sort of trying to complement the yellow from the Chrome logo, but it's not really working.
It's not even the same yellow, right?
That's it's not. The logos are kind of haphazard on the car. There are too many of them. But I think the main problem that this is having is that the oranges and the blues are too separated from each other. I think that if the orange was connected across the body and the nose, if there was a more of a unison form to those connections, because it's like the orange and the blue, it's like it's on the airbox, but it's also on the nose, but it's also on the wing, and it's also on the halo, and it's also on the top, and it's also on the wing. It's like they like took a stamp and they just like stamped it in different places on the car rather than creating a flow of the color across the car. It doesn't look like it's in motion. It looks like it's just it's too disconnected. Yeah, it looks like a black car that they put stickers on, which is not what you want. You want it to look like it has elements in it that are separated. So a little too busy. I think the orange is moving further away from papaya and moving more towards like a construction cone, which I'm not a fan of. I know it's supposed to kind of be like Gulf, but that's the thing. You look at the original Gulf livery, it is a lot lighter. It's like more of an orange creamsicle and like a baby blue than what they're doing here. This is more of like construction cone and grabber blue. So I think a little too busy, too disjointed. It needs to be more of a unison sort of design, and it doesn't look like that. It looks too disconnected to me.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad to hear. Yeah, we're on the same page about that. It's just, this was one of the ones that I tuned in like live for, and I saw it and I was like, wah wah.
I'm not. That's really all I have to say about that McLaren. It's just a little bit too busy. Okay,
let's move on to the Alpha.
Okay, AlphaTauri. Yeah. What do you think?
Can I just say, I think for the both of us, bro. With like 10 O's. In a good way. I think we texted about this one. I think we were both pleasantly surprised at this. Like, they didn't change too much, honestly, from last year's livery, with the exception.
It's a new sponsorship, I think.
Yeah, new sponsorship. But they added in the highlights from the red of Orland, and it looks clean, dude. Like the red on the inside of the wheel hub there, really, really nice.
Looking at this more closely, there's a couple things I will say. I think that the nose area is a little bit disjointed in a way. Like you have like the Flex Rocks sort of thing that has this yellow that isn't anywhere else on the car. I'm gonna give AlphaTauri I'm gonna give them some props for taking a risk with those wheels. I think it's speed. They're gonna look really good. And it's not that I don't like them. It's just that I think they remind me a little bit of like remember those things as a kid? It was like battle tops. You like spun them into that little Beyblades.
Let it rip.
It kind of reminds me of like a Beyblade. You know what I mean? It just there's something about it that just has that kind of like, it looks like it would be a Beyblade design. Like it feels very underwear, sort of like sports equipment kind of thing in certain ways. But I will say, honestly, I don't think it's bad looking. I think the elements are balanced there. I like that the white nose kind of blends into that blue. And honestly, that blue, it looks better than the Red Bull blue. If Red Bull had that blue instead of the blue that they're using, I think it would look better. Because it's just a little bit more bold, you know? So
agreed. Let's move on to the Aston Martin. I'll kick it off. I think that green is real nice. I don't think it's changed much from last season, but I do like how the livery looks on the new design. And there's some changes to the side pods, it looks like.
Yes.
And I think what they did is actually put like a little swoop in there to kind of mark where that side pod starts to pull away from the actual monocoque structure, with the yellow swoop there. So it's clean. I like it. There's not too much going on. It looks like a race car. It's an Aston Martin. It's got that British racing green. I think it looks nice, and it'll be fun to see it in motion.
Yeah, they added more black into the bottom. The green color used to encompass more of the side pod of the body. Yeah. So that's where it's like that they were sort of bringing more of the black into it. I think this thing looks very fast. That long yellow swoopy stripe that goes through the side pod, that makes it look very fast. I also like the little tiny like lines on the wheel cover, and then the yellow in the circle. I think that's a really good design. It looks killer with the yellow Pirelli P0s. But yeah, lots of white logos. But like I said, once again, those logos are all white, and so the kind of the color balance is good there. You know, you have your yellow for your main colors, you have the black, the main color is the green, the secondary is the black, and then you have that strip of yellow. Good balance overall, I think, with that livery. And I think their presentation was pretty good. You get a good sort of understanding of kind of where the colors are, and they use white light to hit it. So I'm into it.
All right. Next up, the Alpines.
Alpine. I like the Alpine. I know some people are like, whatever, like it's not great. Here's the thing. Once again, Alpine does a good job of balancing the colors as they go across. So the blue is all this kind of unison connected sort of section, but there's a good breakup with the pink on the wing and the BWT logo. You have a separation of the black across, which is like your other color, and then just the pink sort of accent in the side pod in the wing. It's well balanced in that way across the entire car. And I also like how on the backwards and forwards wheels, it's like there's like blue with a little bit of pink, and then pink with a little bit of blue.
Yes.
So we'll know if for some reason they mix up their tires during a race, we'll know whether or not like they screwed that up. The FIA is definitely we are checking. We are checking. Yes, box. But yeah, classic Alpine. And I also like that they're running all pink cars for like a couple of races.
Yes.
That's definitely going to irritate the more fragile masculine of those people out there who are somehow intimidated by pink. Don't know what's wrong with you.
But if it's pink.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, I'm sorry that pink is offending your gender. That's your fault, not mine. But yeah, I like it. I think it looks good. Nothing too out of control, but I think the added black in there, I think also continues to make these cars look a lot more sinister. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I have nothing really to add other than I hope that they run more races with the pink livery. I think the pink just looks really nice, and I really miss having like a pink car on the grid every single weekend.
Well, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Drum roll. Yeah, the Mercedes is hot. Like, damn it, man. They've been teasing us with a lot of little like stories on Instagram the last few weeks, and it was just, they were drip feeding us some content, and then boom, and yeah, it was worth the wait. This is one beautiful looking machine. Just looking at what they have here, we're looking at the George Russell version of the car.
Yes.
I think the color of the numbering on the car is the same.
Different. Is it the same?
I think so. Well, actually, it looks like George is more green.
Yeah,
I think Lewis is more like a neon yellow. So
yeah, I think that's gonna be right. Yeah,
but man, it looks nice. Everything pops. I'm so glad to see the return to black for these guys. I think, like, anytime I see this, I just think like I just hear the Imperial March in my head, and that these guys are hunting you down, and it's just so cool,
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Once again, just that flowing line of teal moving across the body, it makes the car look so fast just sitting still.
Yep.
The naked carbon, the Mercedes logo on the nose. There's a detail that they pointed out that I really like. It's kind of hard to see, but right under the airbox where the red accent is over the airbox, there's a little red star logo back there. That's for Niki Lauda. Yeah. Which I think is brilliant and beautiful, that they're sort of continuing to remember him and also like continuing to keep him in the sport and spirit. That's a beautiful little tribute and a little detail. Perfectly smooth lines, the little accents across the Petronas logo in the back. Honestly, like, I never thought that the Mercedes looked bad in silver, and silver is like historically the Mercedes color. Even Mercedes street cars, like even just their normal domestic cars, look better in black than they do in silver.
I don't know what it is. It's just so like there's like a presence that it has to it, right? That's so intimidating.
Yeah, just absolutely beautiful. Love it. So give me your ranking.
Are we gonna do top 5? Let's do top 5.
Let's do top 5. Okay.
Yeah. So my top 5 are in, they have to be in a specific order if they're my top 5, right? So I think fifth place for me is probably going to be the AlphaTauri. Fourth is Alpine.
Okay.
Third is Ferrari. Number 2 is the Alfa Romeo, and number 1, Mercedes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Mine's definitely different. So for me, I'm gonna go 5th is Williams.
Ooh.
4th is Alpine. 3rd is Aston Martin. Number 2 is going to be Alfa Romeo, and number 1 is going to be Mercedes.
Wow, no Ferrari.
I love that Ferrari, but I think that as far as like just looking as the overall comparison, I think that honestly from a distance, the Alpine and the Aston Martin look really good as just race cars.
Wow. Okay.
I think on track they're going to look really spectacular. Don't get me wrong, love that Ferrari, but I think that the Williams, the Aston, and the Alpine have this sort of modern quality to them that feels really slick. But it was a tight squeeze between that Alpha and that Mercedes. Man, those were neck and neck. Just saying.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, that was a whole lot of talking for us to finally
and a whole lot of not viewing for people listening. So
so actually on that note, thank you for saying that. In the show notes for this episode, I will include the list of our picks for the liveries that we discuss as our favorites. Yeah. And just a link to, I think, the official like F1 Instagram page for you to check out the liveries and see if you guys agree with some of the thoughts that we shared here. Yeah, honestly, liveries are one of the most fun parts of the sport, right? Because it's what you see, right? As far as this is the car, this is the team it represents, that kind of thing. And there's history and I guess whether or not something can be iconic and classic, all involved in that. And it's just lots of opinions, right? So
yeah, well, it's lots of personal opinions too. I mean, there's plenty of people who think the Red Bull looks incredible and awesome and like, hey, good for you. I am not one of them. I cannot be not that I don't think a Red Bull can look good. I just think that currently they do not, and I think they need to make them look better. If they pull out some design like that looks really, really good, I'm totally okay if they stick with it forever. That's fine. I'm here for all these dark cars. I'm here for all this extra black in the paint.
Hopefully the cars all drive as fast as they look. I mean, that's one thing for sure that I think every single car here looks fast.
Yeah. Well, we won't even know during pre-season testing because a lot of those guys like to sandbag too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I would be a Red Bull sandbagging and be like, oh, it was the lack of air tunnels time. We're not that fast. It's like, sure, guys, yeah. You know, you're Red Bull. Come on, you're
posturing.
Yeah.
That fine they had from going over the cost cap really hurt them, huh?
Oh yeah, that's why they couldn't change the color of the car, because they already spent the money. That was going to be the money they spent. Was like, well, we couldn't pay to change the car because we lost that money from the like. Well, you know, don't spend 5% over then, guys. Jeez.
Wah, wah. That's just going to be the Red Bull intro. Anytime we're talking about Red Bull during this podcast, just wah, wah. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to another episode of F1 or F Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to hit us up, just find us on Instagram at F1_or_F Off, and on Twitter at F1 or F Off.
We definitely post as much as we can. You know, we'd love to hear from you too. You know, if anybody is, you know, liking an episode, there's stuff you want to say, like as far as make any comments on our episodes, like, you know, feel free to DM us. You know, if we get a chance to, we'll respond. If you're nice,
get in our DMs.
Slip into that DMs. But yeah, all right, awesome. Thanks everybody.
All right, later.